And gentlemen, welcome back to week number 4 of the Unstoppable Women's League. My name is Proto, and joining me as always, Spadoom on the desk. We're here and we're ready for another great night of Women's League.
Yeah, it's sure to be some banger games tonight. We've got some really great teams and some teams that we haven't actually seen before just quite yet. So definitely a lot to unpack here. Really looking forward to it. But for those of you who are just joining us, let's just go over quickly the format of this league. We do have, coming right up on the screen, a group stage that's going to take place over 7 weeks. And that's a round-robin stage where teams will play each other twice. And then followed by a playoffs for the top 4 players. Top 4 teams, from the group stage.
Yep, then we go forward, obviously, into the semi and the finals. We know what happens there, relatively straightforward. But either or, the teams that we have, speaking of, definitely the highlight, I would say, of the Unstoppable Women's League. Some familiar faces, but as of this season, some new ones coming into the mix, or should we say some rebrands, I suppose. Inferno, sort of one of the newer, I suppose, I guess we could say, teams, not necessarily team-wise new, but definitely sort of a fresh face for an old team, and Team Bliss, formerly Warriors. So, Spud, definitely some big names.
Yeah, Big Brain Esports, Viking Army also making their return here, and Fury have picked up a team as well, and they've made their way into the Women's League as well. Finally, we're rounded off by Triari Esports from last season as well, and Radical Rebels from Radical Esports as always. Well, these teams aren't just fighting for nothing though. There is, of course, a prize pool to play for. What would be the point otherwise? First place does win a grand total of $1,500. Second place gets $1,000. Third will win $500. And fourth place gets maybe some credits, I think, to round it all out. But $3,000, yeah, not a small prize pool here. So definitely some money on the line here.
Yeah, definitely a fair chunk of change up for grabs. I mean, 3,000 AUD split across first, second, and third place is always good. But regardless, the prize pool, there's a lot available, but there's also something else up for grabs in the mix now, Spud. We've got Popsugar, XLG, doing a giveaway. And it is a pretty spicy giveaway at that. You go into the draw to win some earbuds and an LG OLED Evo TV. So make sure you copy the web address off the screen. Go in and sign up for that with your chance to win. There you go, the steps as well. And I mean, that is kind of an insane set of prizes to walk away with.
Yeah, that TV is definitely better than the one I have, so I would definitely love to win that. But I'm not sure if I can have a really good answer for what new show or movie I want to watch, because I'm not much of a TV watcher. I'm more of a Siege watcher. Speaking of Siege watching, let's take a look at how the games have panned out over these last couple of weeks. And we're, of course, 4 weeks into our season now, so standings from week 3 onwards are coming up on your screen right now.
Yeah, no real surprise that we find Team Bliss leading the charge once more. No surprise whatsoever, I guess we could really say. But sort of from third downwards, it's a little bit of a mix-up. I mean, RDC locking in fourth. Yeah, they've had a pretty good season so far. But Fury, I mean, a team at the beginning of the season that we sort of expected to be up there. Well, I guess they're not really too far off. I mean, 1 place away from top 4. But they haven't really necessarily, unfortunately, had the showing that I think everyone was maybe expecting, Spud, in the first few play days.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a wild card for me there. I definitely thought they would be a little bit higher, but it is still halfway through the season. There's definitely still time to work on that. And after all, they're only about 3 points behind Radical Rebels. So coming up, things could certainly change. For BenchWarmers as well, certainly a lot of opportunity here. They're tied 6 points with Fury. They do have quite a large round differential there, but I certainly see them being able to catch up, and especially with tonight's games, BenchWarmers versus Radical Rebels, I certainly think there's room for them to be moving up the board here.
Well, we do have the schedule coming up on our screens right now for Playday number 4. Obviously, as highlighted just previously, game number 1 for us on the mainstream tonight. We have RDC taking on BenchWarmers, and then going into game number 2, we've got Fury and Inferno. So we will get to see a little bit of Fury from tonight, but also RDC, the team that they are looking to sort of surpass, I suppose. So dependent on how those games turn out, obviously, will be where they end up at the end of the evening in terms of the scoreboard. But yeah, round 1 and round 2 tonight, genuinely looking pretty spicy across the board.
Yeah, definitely a lot of important games here for these teams, especially for Fury and Inferno Gaming. They had quite a bit of a matchup last week. It was actually went down to 8-6 in favor of Inferno Gaming. So Fury now get a second shot at this, and maybe they will be able to take the win here. And of course, for Viking Army and Big Brain Esports, that's our second and third place teams right now. So they will be looking at either holding onto that second place or, being able to climb over Big Brain Esports and get into that second place for Viking Army.
A little bit more in depth, I guess. Let's have a look at match number 1 tonight. We already talked about it very briefly, but here, I guess we're going to have a little bit more of an in-depth look. These two teams, I mean, we already spoke briefly in regards to where they sit currently on the leaderboard. RDC having a really good season so far, being able to sort of secure that 4th place spot. But BenchWarmers, unfortunately, not having the best of luck in the same regards.
Yeah, I think this was kind of the story that we saw last season as well. Season 7, I believe, Radical Rebels came in 4th and BenchWarmers were sitting in at 5th. And the very last game of that season, it was actually a fight there for BenchWarmers to actually take the win and get into those playoffs. So maybe a little bit of a revenge tour here. BenchWarmers hoping to upset Radical Rebels. And although I don't think they'll be able to get into the playoffs straight away, at least they might be able to take Radical Rebels down a notch and close that gap a little bit more.
Let's hope so, because obviously there is still a considerable amount of time. I mean, we're only halfway through the season, so we could see a bit of a late, great push, I suppose, from BenchWarmers to sort of make it from the bottom to the mid to maybe even the top end or close enough to the top end of the scoreboard. But Spud, these two rosters, will have a little bit more of a look coming on to our screens now. Roster number 1, RDC, a team that so far in this season has proven to be quite a scary build. I mean, we've got Meeps, we have Aussie Ash, we have Weasel, Jesse Knox. I mean, even the subs, Mystique, Alora, Evie, Angry as well on the main roster. I mean, definitely a very, very capable set of fraggers.
Yeah, a lot of these players have played together as well. Aussie Ash and Meeps, I remember from last season on the Radical Rebels roster. So they certainly have that synergy already built up. And that's certainly going to help because, they know how each other play. There's sort of that unspoken communication that goes on. And we see that a lot, especially from teams like Team Bliss, Big Brain Esports, who have played together for a long time. And I certainly hope that sort of factor is starting to come in and work its magic for Radical Rebels.
Then on the flip side of the card, obviously, you have the team that they are going to be going up against tonight for their shot at 3 points. The BenchWarmers, a team that made their introduction to the Women's League, I believe, either last season or the season prior. But regardless, a team that has shown on sort of multiple occasions that they do have what it takes to sort of tussle with the best. We've got Frostbite, Arctic Misfire, Aurea, Corvice, Luxie, Hikaru, and Amizi as well, with Larcenist and Sebi as coaches. So definitely, again, a capable roster.
Yeah, some pretty insane KDs there. Looking at Corvice, 602 to 383, and some big numbers there because they have actually been playing for quite a long time. All these stats are kind of compiled from season 1 or 2020 to now. So, of course, lots of experience here. But yeah, certainly looking forward to how these teams will stack up against each other. Certainly, they're very close in terms of the standings. We've said that multiple times, and I think they're very close in terms of skill level as well. And that certainly is going to make for some interesting games tonight.
It definitely will. But the other thing that's interesting to us, obviously, Spud, as commentators, is where the bout will be taking place. We look a little bit more in depth to the map bans. And I mean, there's a lot opened up in terms of obviously what is available in the competitive pool, seeing as we had a few more maps sort of introduced, I suppose. I guess we could really say, I wouldn't say introduced, maybe reiterated back into the competitive pool. We have Border come back after the change, but it goes out there. Ban number one, RDC not really keen as all. Actually, all four of the new maps added into competitive recently are gone in the first four bans. So that leaves us with not a lot left to be desired. It comes to Oregon, Spud, and you know how we feel about that.
Yeah, I won't repeat the name that we often give to Oregon because I
No.
think everyone already knows it. But
Everyone knows.
I guess you could say that it is kind of the bread and butter of Siege along with Clubhouse. They're maps that you have to know how to play. And if you don't know how to play them, then it's, very questionable whether you can do well at competitive Siege at all because, as we've said, it's very fundamental. You need to know, right? So definitely we're going to be seeing those fundamental skills being displayed here from both these teams, Radical Rebels and BenchWarmers. It's who is better at that, making sure they get all the basics of Siege down to get that victory.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, bread and butter, arguably the three most sort of played competitive maps in OCE, at least as a region, Cafe Club and Oregon, they're just the staples. So to see those as the last three picks, no real surprise that it came down to sort of those last sort of three, especially given that the four new maps that we've seen a little bit of play of in other leagues elsewhere gone straight away. Plays in the Women's League, maybe not too keen to get into them, given that they are still somewhat fresh, and that is relatively sort of expected. I mean, we have seen a lot of teams sort of become very, very comfortable on the sort of regular Cafe Clubhouse Oregon. I mean, even Chalet, we've seen an increase in play in the Women's League recently. So, I mean, no real surprise that those were the last four. And for this matchup, I definitely think that it's going to even the playing field a little bit more maybe than we would have expected, say it had been on Border or Skyscraper, something like that.
Yeah, with some of these newer maps, it might be a little bit more difficult to get those attacks in and get the strategy, the setup well done for the defense. So certainly here that, given that they've certainly practiced on these maps, we're going to be seeing the best that they have to offer. Though, yes, I would have loved to see Skyscraper. It's one of the, I used to not quite like that map, but since the rework, it has gotten a little bit better, and I'm, a bit of a fan now. So one day, I hope we'll see Skyscraper, but it will not be today. We will be going back to Oregon. We're just now waiting for the last few players to join before we get into the game. Any last thoughts?
Look, I don't know. Oregon's going to be an interesting one. RDC have had a pretty decent season so far. I mean, they've taken down names like Fury in previous play days. So coming into this, given that it is a top four versus sort of bottom two, I don't think RDC are going to have too much trouble cleaning it up in relatively short time. I'm sort of expecting a 7-3, a 7-2 maybe on Oregon, especially. But given that BenchWarmers got to decide the map, RDC are going to get to pick the side. So I would not be completely surprised at all if they take defense first. But in saying that, it's up to the players at the end of the day. And speaking of the players, I believe we are very close to being ready. So we're going to jump on into the flyover soon. And here we go. We're going to jump on into it. Spud, a map that we have seen a considerable amount of in recent times. You could argue that we've seen enough of it, but we're going back to Oregon once more.
Yeah, Oregon. What more is there to say about it apart from the fact that, we know exactly what it's like. So maybe these teams have something new up their sleeves, a, fancy trick to show us. But at least they could start bans. I hope that it's not another Thatcher Jackal ban. And Jackal, Thatcher, Mira, and Valkyrie. Or maybe Kai. I hope they pick something other than that.
I mean, yeah, Thatcher, I 100% think we see Thatcher go. Maybe the Flores. Could be even the Finker as well. Finker's had a relatively large increase in bans as of recent. So Thatcher to go first. Definitely going to be, I probably want to say the Mirror Valk, if I'm being completely honest, for Oregon against these two teams. Azami could be there, but will the strategy be there to sort of warrant the ban? A different question. Obviously, that is something that will have been seen in scrims or something like that these teams will sort of have inklings on, but it is going to be the Thatcher Jackal, so Jackal does go regardless. And the last two for defense, I'm still sort of gunning hard with the Mirror Valk, I think, is what we're going to round it out with.
Yeah, we see Maverick being played so often in Oregon. It's really not that, troublesome to have to deal with Kaid clause. So, yeah, like you said, yeah, I think the Kaid will stay in the game, and Valkyrie probably last to go. Don't think, given that what we've seen so far, 3 out of 4 bans, I think it's going to be pretty stock standard.
Okay,
No?
okay.
All right,
so,
cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Just prove us wrong.
There you go. So it's not going to sort of, well, I guess it's sort of 50-50 really on how much Maverick will be played now that Cade is gone. But regardless, we're going to get ourselves off the screen and get a little bit more in-depth into the game here, Spud. We start off with, Weasel. There you go. Thank you for the apology, but it's fine. It's Oregon. You expect boring bans when it comes to Oregon at this point. We've seen it all. There isn't anything you can really change. You have to ban out those 4 because if you don't, Oregon gets pretty scary, or at least... well, I don't know. Valkyrie is on the board, so kind of interesting that RDC haven't opted to bring her in round number 1 here.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by
I would have liked to have seen a Flores as well. It's very, very powerful for moving that elbow player out. But of course, Meeps is on the mute there, so a bit of a counter as well. But yeah, given that it's not the top floor site, obviously BenchWarmers will need to adapt here and figure out if they want to change their lineup, change how they approach, given second floor usually the starting site, but basement's still a very, very powerful site and powerful setup here as well. The operator lineup, I think, is incredibly strong for Radical Rebels. Definitely going to give BenchWarmers a run for their money here.
You would hope, Spud. In a competitive siege game, that is ultimately the goal, I guess, isn't it? It's try and walk away with the dub at the end of the day. Aussie Ash, though, we spoke about the Azami briefly, sort of saying, well, is there any sort of really strategy behind warranting the pick? And indeed there is. Or at least you'd hope there is, given that she's been bought here in round number 1. So RDC definitely doing a little bit of homework in terms of the current meta in regards to operator choice, but either or, BenchWarmers, a relatively normal attacking lineup. No Habana and no Maverick, though, sort of brings some interesting questions.
Yeah, opening up that E-box hatch will be much, much more difficult. In terms of the utility required, you've only got 1 more Selma charge to work with, and if that gets removed in any way, then yeah, you're definitely not opening up any balls on site. There's also a lot of contention here upstairs anyway for this meeting hatch. Weasel already in place in meeting, hoping to deny some drones and maybe a player coming in. Frostbite will be the first to fall. That's the Finker gone off the board, and an incredible first pick for RDC.
Meg goes down, and unfortunately for her on the Finker, not the pick you really want to be losing without any real sort of drone support. Not surprising that she goes, but Weasel answers back as Corvice does trade into meeting, looking for a second, and will actually find it on the 0. And I guess we were talking about the lack of hard breach therefore all, but with the secondary hard breach charges that I only just now spot, they are going to be able to get these hatches opened up relatively easily and have some good Selma utility left over. So as the flanks are now set up, looking to go for the execute, RDC, unfortunately, haven't found the impactful operators to take down, that being the hard breaches and the soft breaches, but taking out the entry fraggers is still a good couple of picks to find early, I guess.
Yeah, it's not actually all that bad. They still have 3 players left and a lot of denial available. They've got the smoke to work with, they've got magnets, and also a lot of cover from that Azami. So definitely not all bad news. Frag Grenade will go out now and catches that that Kiba barrier, but smoke is going to at least slow that push and buy a little bit more time for Radical Rebels to hold on.
Down to the last 40, default camera's still up and Corvice will be spotted. So the information relayed here for RDC. They've got a player inside of pillars in Harry Potter, one at the bottom of the main stairs. Jesse not spotting the cross through the wall there and will actually be allowed to get back to a safer position as Aussie Ash aggresses deep into the freezer, but somehow that grenade takes down the Kiva barricade. However, having a couple left means the position will still be fortified. Emezi to open things up with the first death. Unfortunately, Aussie Ash has to reload with 20 bullets left. The impact to try and confirm, but the swing regardless collects both. RDC find round number 1 with relative ease.
And that was a pretty good defense. Even trading out early on wasn't too much of a loss there, and that was mainly because of the operators they were able to take off the board. That's the Finca and the Yana. That's 4 frag grenades gone, as well as all that overheal from the Finca, and that certainly makes attacking an already defender-sided map and site much more difficult for BenchWarmers. So even though it was kind of a 2 for 2. Radical Rebels, I would say, definitely got off the better of that in terms of the utility.
Yeah, definitely in terms of the clear. I mean, we had all those Kiva barricades at the end still up due to the fact that there wasn't really anything to clear them out. I mean, yes, Selma charges can be useful to some degree in that situation, but unfortunately not the best given the time that was left, whereas you could have just, chucked a frag grenade out, would have been all good. But given that you didn't have any left, or any alive, rather, should we say. We did see 2 in the hands of the sledge, but unfortunately didn't really find too much in terms of frags, but pun intended. Regardless, BenchWarmers, unfortunately, not the greatest round 1 in terms of the execute, but the initial beginning, I mean, 2 kills traded out for 2 kills. The frags and the trades were there and relevance, and the hatches were opened up in a timely manner, so they have pretty good building blocks, or at least have shown pretty good building blocks, Spud. Now the execute is going to be the big question. We have the switch up. We've got some more high-breaching utility, so hopefully BenchWarmers have learned from previous mistakes.
Yeah, I think they just needed to be a little bit more efficient on that roam clear. Not so much in terms of time, but just being able to find the opening pick and coming out on top of that in terms of the player count, because they needed that extra player, that extra firepower, to take that site at the end. And Radical Rebels, they had the smoke, they had the my magnets, they had the Kiva barriers. BenchWarmers were really kind of struggling there at the end, and having that extra player maybe dropping E-box hatch, just throwing a spanner in the works for Radical Rebels certainly would have helped a lot. But yeah, that is the basement site. It is notoriously difficult to attack anyway. It's very much a kind of anchor heavy, and even with the 2 roamers gone, 3 players anchoring on site, very easy to still hold onto that. It's a different story, I guess, for second floor kids dorm now. We'll have to see how that plays out.
Given that the downstairs has already been won, RDC, yes, are going to have to move up to kids dorms, but unfortunately, due to the extended nature of this reconnect, Meg's internet maybe not having the best of evenings, we are going to chuck it to a very short break. So we'll return momentarily. Hopefully, it's not 5 seconds after I finish saying this, just for the sake of Alex, but we will be back, I'd hope, in a good manner of time. So don't go anywhere. We'll return with the rest of this match in a moment's notice. Well, we're back in somewhat of a timely manner. So here we are for the continuation. Round number 2, Spud. Round number 1 opened up a couple of talking points for us, but yeah, RDC closed it out relatively easily. BenchWarmers, unfortunately, didn't have the time, I guess, left to make it happen.
Yeah, we spoke a lot about the utility that was lost by BenchWarmers in that early roam clear, and the utility that's being held by Radical Rebels. And I think it's important because Oregon being such a kind of mini-game fundamentals map, apart from winning gunfights, you need to know where to put all that utility and what to do with it. And Radical Rebels certainly have shown, at least from the first round, a good mastery of that. BenchWarmers, though, certainly no slouches here. And yes, it is only the first round, so there still can be a lot that... Sorry, there's still a lot that can be done here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot on the board, but with Weasel finding the first kill over by the big tower, Meg goes down once more. The Finca gone in the opening moments. I mean, how that was allowed to happen for Benchwarmers, that is, I don't know. There should have been drones in there, or at least pre-placed, because if that was what I think we saw, thanks to Nuttery with the hole in the floor, I mean, RDC are just picking apart this entry right now. Benchwarmers have no information whatsoever.
Drone work, people. Remember, that is, one of the fundamentals that you have to master, and it seems Benchwarmers are just kind of happy just to walk into sight and try to take those gunfights, which certainly is not working out at all. Meeps with the run out as well. Again, no drone work. She was just allowed to walk on up there, get the hard breach as well, and now we talked about the lack of utility. Man, there is no utility here.
I don't know how Aurea wins that, but it doesn't matter because Aussie Ash has retaken the position and is cleaning up anything that was left, and it's all up to Arctic in a 1 versus 4. Spud, unfortunately, it seems that Benchwarmers haven't sort of warmed up to the sort of feeling of Oregon as Jesse Knox closes out the round, and I believe some possible style with a 1-tap here maybe through the pixel. Indeed it was. What a nice shot. But yeah, RDC definitely playing a different game, it seems, to Benchwarmers right now.
There's 3 entry picks before, 3 opening picks before Benchwarmers were even able to get a kill back. And we complimented them last time on being able to get those trades back. But this time it was a completely different story. There was no answer whatsoever. And again, Aurea really shouldn't have won that gunfight. So it was really, could have been a flawless round there. So Benchwarmers certainly, if they weren't doing so well in the first round, certainly let their foot off the gas the second round. And if this continues, 7-2 in favor of Radical Rebels is certainly very easy.
I mean, maybe even a 7-0 spot if we keep seeing that unfold. But keep in mind, we do still have to watch RDC on the attacking side. But in saying that, I mean, we saw them on Bank versus Fury, I believe, in Play Day 2 off stream, or Play Day 1 rather off stream, and either or. It was an insane showing from them, a 7-1 or a 7-0, something along the lines of. So, given that Fury are just like, what did you say, 3 points behind them in terms of the leaderboard, there's a pretty big difference between Fury and Benchwarmers positionally wise. So, yeah, I don't know. RDC definitely off to a racing start, but Benchwarmers still a couple of things to polish up, but definitely doable in the time that they have left.
Yeah, we mentioned Benchwarmers are about 17 round differential behind Fury. So even if they can't win this, they at least need to get some rounds on the board and close that gap if they have any hope of making it to the playoffs. Also, they probably need to get their drones out because certainly it has not been working out on the entry here. The Romans have just been able to pick apart the attackers as they walk in the building. Finally, some good intel coming out. They're trying to get control of the small tower side of the map and at least get a foothold into the building.
I think the plan might even be just sort of to jump in upstairs. I mean, we've got 3 players just sort of AFK at this double window right now with no pressure from the master side whatsoever. So for Benchwarmers, it's a very, very sort of one-sided offhand setup here with no support from that pinch end. But I mean, if they opt to send it, it is not going to go well for them at all.
A couple of nades might be able to flush out these positions, given that... actually, yeah, I don't know if there's any ADSs and any denial up here, but certainly you'd expect them to be... No? Nope. There isn't. Yeah, well...
No, yeah, nothing at all.
Nade could certainly help, but again, intel isn't there to remind them of that.
And apparently not the support either, as Amezi doesn't even flinch as her teammate behind her gets cleaned up by Weasel. The vault's there, but Jesse Knox is there to greet. Frost goes down, Meg taken out, Aurea almost losing that gunfight as well, but does manage to walk away with it. And still, yeah, no reconsolidation from Amezi whatsoever. Moves towards White, but Weasel still has small tower control, and no one from Benchwarmers seems to be any the wiser. How is this allowed? Corvice died there 30 seconds ago.
Well, it seems Radicals aren't too aware of what is going on. Either one pick goes, but finally, Weasel will get that pick. Arctic finally opens up some space upstairs, but there's only 2 players remaining now. On either team, Aurea, however, is low, and that health differential might be what makes a difference here.
Diffuser control, however, I guess we could say for RDC, and with Aurea on very, very low HP, all that they really can do is play for some vertical and hope to find a pick, but RDC, a little bit wiser in the situation, not really letting that happen, at least for the moment. Aussie is quite aggressive inside of the kitchen here, trying to contest this verticality, but it is going to be Weasel to hold it down with 3 in the round for herself, taking down Aurea in shower hallway, now playing close in the shower corridor. Arctic has to find 2 in the space of 3 seconds. The pre-fire's there, Weasel for 4, and RDC close it out once more for another great round.
Yeah, that flank there was really what kind of broke the camel's back there for BenchWarmers. A lot of pressure being applied upstairs, but no support or even information there in that small tower. Weasel able just to take pick after pick, and especially that diffuser as well, meant that BenchWarmers' options were really, really limited by that point. So yeah, not sure where the communication went in that round. Certainly would have been helpful if someone had mentioned there was someone in small tower. So again, fundamental things, drones, communication. BenchWarmers certainly need to work on that if they hope to take this at least to a 3-3 for a fighting chance in the half switch.
I just don't get how Weasel was allowed to live after that first kill. I mean, Corvice died behind a Mezzi who had good control of dining. But that kill comes out, Corvice is right behind where she is, and the call either not given or ignored completely. While yes, Emezi did find a kill inside the kitchen to open things up for BenchWarmers, it didn't amount to anything because Weasel still had control of small tower and was not contested in any way, shape or form, wasn't droned, had utility sort of thrown in her way, which really, really hurt BenchWarmers. I mean, Weasel found 4 single-handedly in that round, arguably single-handedly taking apart the entire push, which unfortunately is not what you want, especially when you're down sort of 2-0, looking down the barrel of 3-0. BenchWarmers have a lot to sort of make up for now.
Yeah, back to the basement we go, which means that this is, of course, a strong site for Radical Rebels. That shield placement up in Alpha is going to be so difficult to remove, and as we've said, the utility placement has to be perfect for you to really take that position. Maybe, you know, they could once again go for a laundry freezer take, kind of bypass that utility, but for the most part, it seems, once again, they're kind of trying to brute force their way in.
Yeah, look, Spud, so far, it has been a good showing from both, but arguably RDC coming out on top in majority of the gunfights. But an aid thrown towards Green Hall, whether or not the information on Weasel was there to support the use of the utility, a different question, as BenchWarmers sort of back away very quickly from that position as they move towards the back stairs here. I mean, we've got Arctic towards the front lobby, Aurea, towards the front lobby. We've got Arctic on the back stairs. I know that Meg is close by, but as I say that, Meeps will take down the player at the front lobby. Meg will actually find her first kill and take down Meeps. That is a big weight lifted off the chest of BenchWarmers here, because Meeps has been such an issue for so long in this matchup.
Well, yes, Beeps has, but it is Weasel who has died. So at least they got the 4K last time. Bit late on the refrag, a round late, but it's an opener. It's an opener and an opening that they need to exploit here, because they've already lost 1 player as well, and they don't have much time remaining. If they lose another without, you know, actually gaining any map control, it's going to be a really, really big problem. And speaking of map control, they haven't got any hatches open. They've got this freezer, but it's a solo push here. I certainly expect the utility denial and the crosses from, from Laundry will be able to shut this player down. So just a bit odd in terms of the placement of players when they need to be getting those trades.
They'd come out, but unfortunately read into. Meeps will be found by Meg as she retreats back to the freezer stairs. Safety, Arctic walks down. It is Aussie Ash to find 1. The trade there from Arctic. The LMG going to town. It's Jesse Knox in a 1 versus 3, but with the shotgun in hand, definitely doable. However, Emezi does have an awareness about her to realise that the flank is coming and drops on down to collect the kill. BenchWarmers finally put the pieces together and find a round for themselves.
Yeah, the attack was a little bit spread out there, but unfortunately for Radical Rebels, their crossfires weren't really in place to kind of punish that. So BenchWarmers able to finally get a round on the board, as we mentioned, and a crucial round there. The momentum that Radical Rebels was building up is, almost on the verge of being unstoppable. Had that been another round, then I really am not sure how BenchWarmers would have been able to fight back. But at least it's a round, and Radical Rebels, learning from their mistakes, it seems, have decided to take it to another site. They're not going to make a repeat, and they're going to go back to this top floor site, which, of course, they won the first time around as well.
Yeah, RDC on this defense have looked really, really good. I mean, solid is sort of, to say the least. The roams that we've seen from Meeps, I mean, just sort of along the lines of the damage that they've been able to do off the site. BenchWarmers was really only able to sort of read into that 4 rounds into the game. Definitely hurts them a little bit sort of going forward, because now they've got the best sort of outcome for them in this half is a 3-3, and especially going into the defense after starting on the attack, a 3-3 is going to be what they want, sort of best case scenario. But Meeps on this spawn peak looking to do some damage. Unfortunately, nobody from BenchWarmers really interested just yet in running towards the main door, and she's going to give up just before she gets the chance.
It's an interesting spawn pick. I couldn't quite figure out where it was, but that is indeed
that's an OG like year 3 spawn peak in old Oregon.
Man, it would have been pretty funny if that worked, though. On the one hand, okay, cool, I'm glad cheesy stuff like that doesn't work, but also, wow, that would have been maddening if I had fallen for that. So, well, it is what it is. BenchWarmers will make their way into that big tower to look for that entry, but Meeps, again, on the opening pitch, she does finally get her kill, and once again, Frostbite the first to fall. Again, Sledge, that horizontal control with the Reaching Hammer and the nades will be removed off the board.
Unfortunately, yeah, Meg not having the greatest of nights on this sort of almost pseudo entry, I suppose, role with the Sledge, but hopefully that turns around on the defense. More of a defensive oriented character, but Meeps allowed to just run around like this again out of the small tower, finds another kill. It's the same run out onto the same player. I mean, there's no claymore. They're doing nothing about.
It's the same.
You know what? At this point, RDC 4-1. Yeah.
Come on, they did the same thing, and BenchWarmers fell for it again. So I don't really know what you have to say about that, right? At least they've got the Finko alive. Maybe there's,
okay,
Big Boom might win. No, it will not. Flawless round. Okay,
yeah, they've got nothing. They've got nothing left at the conclusion of round number 5. BenchWarmers, a series of very unfortunate yet avoidable mistakes. A claymore on small tower, or at least some information in terms of a clear place drone would have definitely solved that issue. Not walking into mast to face check the shield and then turning around and run away with a player behind it might have also helped, but RDC, I guess, they're sort of seeing that they can abuse a pattern, and abuse that they definitely are, because BenchWarmers are not sort of picking up on these changes and continue making the same mistakes. I mean, that shouldn't have been allowed to happen. 5 rounds in, especially when they looked so good in the previous.
Yeah, it was a really, really nice attack there from BenchWarmers in the previous round on this basement side. It was a bit spread out, as we mentioned, but they managed to collapse at the same time and pinch off that player
with no
in that long corridor. So I just don't understand where that coordination suddenly just gone, poof. And it's about consistency, right? I mean, Oregon, as we said, fundamentalist. Consistency is bread and butter part of that. And if they can't be consistent, right, it really, you really have to ask, how are they going to struggle, in the rounds coming up?
Indeed it is, Spud, but either or, Meeps on another spawn peak here does I believe here players below her, or at least here's the camera being shot out, but with BenchWarmers opting to bypass that step going up to the small tower. Oh, here they come, but no, Meep's walking away
No.
just as they sort of come by up into the tower, and Mezzi not going to be there to collect that kill. Flores makes his first iteration into the lineup. Meg bringing it out, has had a lot of role changes tonight, from Finker to Sledge now to Flores. I mean, we've seen a lot of changes here from BenchWarmers, and unfortunately they haven't worked out just yet. So hopefully Flores and the iteration of some role changes can help them get this round.
And Meep's going to fall back to site now after at least popping a window, maybe get some attention up there and stall out the attack a little bit more. But she might actually be able to find a kill here. Vice looking round the corner, looks the wrong way, is taken down. And that's opening pick once again, Radical Rebels.
Ah, that is unfortunate. Jesse losing that fight to Arctic inside of elbow. Will be there to close it up with the Kiba barricade, and Angry there to stop the push completely. They do have blue control, but unfortunately, it's not enough to get into the site, as Aurea off-screen will find one, taking down Weasel elsewhere towards the kitchen side, actually. So clearing out the roam this time. Meeps is still at large, so that is an issue that they do have to take into consideration, but they do have some good control inside of blue, but not for long. Angry there with no cover to be seen from BenchWarmers. That is unfortunate.
Yeah, usually, you know, how you take is you go down big tower stairs while you're pushing bunker so you can enable the push from that side. But again, the spread out push, they've gone from freezer and small tower while one player is in bunker, and that just cuts them off completely. You've got two distinct halves who aren't able to support each other, and it leaves them open to things like that where they can just be shut down from a very well anchored defense. That leaves just MZ all by herself here against three players who are quite eager to get the kill here. You can see they're all just holding this one angle. Yeah, 30 seconds. Not much you can do here.
I mean, there's not a lot at all that can be done, Spud. My mic was muted. It always happens at the best time. But pushing in actually will win that fight. Meeps doesn't connect on the close range. Pistol swap though from Eddie. Running in deep, but unfortunately moving back to Pillar. Angry with the better angle. Takes that frag without any real issue and locks another one down for RDC. Spud, that is a great half for them. I mean, 5-1 on the split. BenchWarmers go onto the defense. Not only do they have a lot of ground to make up, but I mean, RDC are a scary team on the attack. They love the double LMG, which we already see here. The timeout has been called by BenchWarmers, and I think rightfully so, given the situation that they find themselves in currently.
Yeah, it's certainly an uphill battle here to be fought. They do have the kind of buffer that they've got 4 rounds. Sorry, that they're on defense. 4 rounds for Radical Rebels means they have a lot of room as well to breathe. They can go onto that attack feeling very confident. And, you know, confidence sometimes is the thing that changes. Given that they are bringing 2 LMGs, as you mentioned, they could just go for the ping and swing strategy. That is, you know, very, very prevalent these days. Of course, we have seen the face checks not work out too well from BenchWarmers, so maybe Radical Rebels will fall for the same thing, and BenchWarmers might be able to catch up.
Yeah, you'd hope, Spud. They it's a very big hill that they find themselves facing right now, but provided, you know, RDC, if they let up, could open the door for BenchWarmers to make a comeback. But given what we've seen already, I mean, I think RDC is still relatively confidently sort of in the driving seat for this match. I mean, 5-1 on the split definitely speaks towards more of a dominant half, but going forward, you know, BenchWarmers now on defense do have the better sort of side of the coin flip, I suppose. This is, well, okay, we can't really say it's defender side anymore. Oregon of recent has sort of turned into more of a 50-50 split map, which is no real surprise given we've seen operators like Islami, like Sens sort of brought into the pool. But yeah, BenchWarmers definitely a lot more comfortable, I'd imagine, on the defense. So hopefully they can sort of close up the gap.
Yeah, maybe part of this is because they have a sub as well, so they've kind of lost that intuition about the roles that should be played then. Maybe that communication breakdown is contributing to things here. So I really want to see whether that affects their setup in particular for defense, whether, you know, people aren't sure where they should be, where the utility is going to go, and whether that hinders in any way BenchWarmers' defense, especially since they really, really need to win all their defenses here. We saw that.
Yeah, we did see that, the Weasel. It is on stream, and it will now be documented forever. But those were my discs from the window, can be shot, provided RDC see them on a drone. But the nade from out the window on highway will connect, and will be able to, I believe, get the utility off the wall. Yeah, the mute jammer has been cleared. Thank you very much, Nuttery, for consolidating that for us. But with a hold in Armory, I mean, BenchWarmers have a lot more of an in-depth sort of site setup here than what we saw from RDC. So this could be big, provided RDC don't sort of read into it.
Yeah, one thing I did note is there's so much utility stacked up on Trophy. The Wamai and the Jaeger and the shields and the mute jammers. It's almost too much, I think, because then it means everyone knows that the strong point is over here. So a smart team would probably just say, well, we'll just ignore it. We know there's no utility elsewhere, and that's where the attack is going to be... Sorry, the defense is going to be weakest.
And there's not a lot of time left at all. I mean, Spud, so far, RDC on this attack have been relatively slow off the bat, but given that they are coming up a really well set up defense from BenchWarmers, I mean, you do have to give it to them. The setup that they've got going on here is definitely quite an in-depth sort of spread. But as the nades begin to fly, damage starts to be percued. Aussie started off, jumping into pit, actually wins the fight of the play close with one. Still inside of Trophy. The holes are right there, Aussie. The information not possibly relayed as they walk on in, but there you go. The kill will be found. Aussie does finally take down Aurea inside of Trophy, and there's actually even still a player inside of Armory. Amezi lets the Finker walk by with the shotgun. Doesn't get spotted out in the cross. Corvice does go down. Weasel will finally spot the cross. Angry to find one to confirm onto Corvice. But Meg on the flank, possibly a little bit too late. As the bomb goes down, we're in the post plant. A 5 versus 2, not looking good for BenchWarmers.
And they have that cross as well on this Windows, but it'd be up to Frostbite from that big tower to take out Weasel and allow MEZ to move. But no, she will opt for a different approach, straight through the attic, and will take a bullet straight to the brain, leaving just MEZ. Oh, well, nobody. And, okay, a flawless round. Definitely not how I thought this would end.
That is actually quite surprising. BenchWarmers looked solid there. That was a great side setup, great sort of split of players. The only thing I think that may have hurt them is having the smoke of all operators in the Armory as opposed to maybe the Aruni. Regardless, the way it was set up and the fact that they had sort of 5 alive up until the last 30 seconds or so, 40 seconds, is definitely a really good sign for their defense side. But regardless, RDC close it out. They find 6-1. It's match point here, Spud, as we look to go forward into what could possibly be the final round of this game. BenchWarmers are going to have an absolutely monumentous comeback of 5 rounds unanswered, which, if I'm being completely honest, is not looking like it's in the cards.
Yeah, last time we have actually seen BenchWarmers play this map a grand total of 1 time this season, and it was against Fury where they did lose 7-1. So it looks like we could be on for a repeat here, and with a -6 round differential, that's definitely going to hurt their push to get into the playoffs. So they've got a big task ahead of them. Yeah, nothing more can be said about that. They have to fight for their lives here.
Yeah, they do. They really do, because if they don't, I mean, they're not going to be walking away with any points, but unfortunately. Regardless what happens, if BenchWarmers can bring it back to overtime, we are going to see it go over into that sort of plus regulation zone. It's not going to be closed in regulation by BenchWarmers, but it will be by RDC, provided that they win this last round. But already, I mean, look at the control that they have. They've got all of the back stairs. I mean, there's no one in pillar right now at all from BenchWarmers. So, little rough.
Yeah, here we see the drones going out as well, gathering that intel, something that was certainly missing from BenchWarmers. Ping comes out, grenade to follow. Doesn't quite catch anyone, but will at least take out that Prisma. But for the most part, yeah, look, elbow. No one's even holding elbow. They've just given up and haven't reinforced it back. Though the frostbite will actually be close. My bad, I missed that. And yeah, falls back now, but doesn't reinforce it. Okay. Sure, that's a bit risky, I suppose, but we'll find out.
Yeah, a series of questionable decisions, but I guess the reinforcement, or the lack thereof, sort of pays off. They've got the mute chamber there to counter the use of those Retiro drones, so the shield not cleared out. And while we say that, I don't actually think there's any ADSs whatsoever. Yeah, no, there is no ADSs in blue. So a Gon 6 or a grenade in the hands of the Maverick, who's right there. Actually, none left, unfortunately. Corvice to open it up from inside of the site. Things are getting interesting as I believe they shoot their own mute jammers. But
I have no idea how that works. I'm not sure what's going on here either, but it seems that Radical Rebels have kind of fallen apart here. They've got 2 players left, and they're not really sure what to do. And again, the utility usage, this time we have to criticize Radical Rebels there. Where were the grenades? Yeah. A grenade would have cleared out that shield, bada bing, bada boom. You would have got an elbow. You had big tower control for so long. You had all the ingredients there for a successful execute, but they kind of just sat there and waited, and now they've got 2 players left and 30 seconds to go.
2 very capable players. Aussie Ash on an absolute heater tonight. But in a 2 versus 4, I mean, it's a tall order for any team. 20 seconds to make it happen as well is a big ask, but as they walk on down, damage will be taken. The drop in from Aussie Ash deep into the site, not going to find the first. I think somehow winning that fight and sort of just... Jesse? What? Finds 2 kills in a 1 versus 2, 3 seconds left, but it doesn't matter. Meg finally hits a flank and connects. I don't know how was Jesse allowed to find 2 there.
Well, certainly the basement floor seems to be the stronger of sites for all teams involved. BenchWarmers finding their second round in the map and the first offensive round, but it of course does force them onto that second floor, which they lost in a 5-0 flawless victory to Radical Rebels. So again, a difficult place to be in, unless they of course want to take the 2 tertiary sites, but that's probably not going to happen, let's be honest.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Yeah. Spud, I said 7-2 at the start. I think I might have nailed it here, because if we know anything about RDC, is that they don't make the same mistake twice. Usually. I say that sparingly. Usually. But now that I've said it, you know, cast a curtain that that could very soon change. For BenchWarmers, a glimmer of hope, I suppose, through the dark clouds that we've seen, unfortunately for them so far in this matchup. But that was a solid defensive round. That was BenchWarmers evolved, sort of showing through for a second. So if they can keep that up, they could, in theory, take this to overtime quite easily, provided they do it 4 more times. So that also means that they're going to have to win a meeting or a kitchen dining. So possibility, albeit still, I don't reckon RDC let it slip.
Yeah, again, we talk about consistency and how you need the consistency to be able to do repeat performances multiple times. And so far, BenchWarmers, while yes, they have shown some great skill and, you know, a glimmer of hopes every now and again, it just hasn't been consistent enough to, you know, really be able to seal the deal here, especially with Radical Rebels being 4 rounds up. So I guess we'll just have to see how this round plays out. If they get 1 or 2 more, then yeah, BenchWarmers could certainly take this back to overtime, but there is no margin for error here.
No, there is not any real margin whatsoever. I mean, well, there is quite literally no margin of error whatsoever. But given that we've got this player in Armory lockdown once more, the shot's not connecting for Angry, unfortunately, could have been the opening kill. But at the moment, it is just that sort of opening mini game, I guess, for RDC. They're opening everything up. They've got the drones this time inside of Armory, relaying the pings downstairs to who I believe Meeps may be looking to open things up. But as Frostbite opens things up, Meg with a nice kill out onto that main balcony. I mean, that's not what you want, but Weasel does trade, I suppose, for 2, as Meeps now comes up on the flank as well, but not clearing out Armory and jumping into the main stairs. Probably not the best of choices, Angry, and they will pay for that.
Yeah, the Armory position has worked wonders so far. Radical Rebels, of course, last time chose to just bypass it entirely, and that was very effective. I'm just a little bit surprised they haven't done so again, especially since Frostbite can do that. Drop from the hatch and get the drop on Meeps. That's 3 picks, 2 or 3 picks, I believe, all from Frostbite, leaving a 2v3 for Radical Rebels.
Yeah, 3 for Meg. What a time to show up to the match. It does some big damage. The Volt over from Aussie Ash doesn't take any of the damage, but for Vice to find Weasel, it has to be activated to shoot it, and Frostbite finally shows up on this flank, finds 4, I believe, in the round. BenchWarmers a 7-3. They could be on for it, but was it just a one-round thing? We don't know. We'll have to see going forward.
Yeah, a little bit of adaptation could have worked wonders there for Radical Rebels. They chose to kind of hard stick this master bedroom side take through the attic, knowing that there was almost certainly going to be a player in Armory, and they certainly paid the price for it. You know, a white stairs, big window take probably would have worked there, especially given that all the utility was stacked up on the other side of the map. So, you know, it is what it is. BenchWarmers will be able to take their 3rd round, and if they can continue this kind of, you know, very strong defensive holds and playing those power positions, I certainly think BenchWarmers can take this round, maybe the next one, and really, really make Radical Rebels sweat.
Indeed, Spud. I mean, we look at how it's all sort of panning out, and given the BenchWarmers have found 2, I mean, largely unsuspecting, off of the back of Meg, but that is pretty much all that has kept them in it. And I would say a couple of mistakes from RDC. I mean, the information there, yes, but the player was in Armory in the previous round. You had information that the player was in Armory once again. Jumping in highway window and not checking, or not even looking in the general direction. An unfortunate reality that we saw unfold. So hopefully this time we see a little bit more of that information for RDC, provided that round is pretty, I would say, good to be theirs, given that they've looked so good so far.
Information once again coming out. I believe that's a ping perhaps on the player in Armory. But no, it will be Frostbite who actually gets that kill. Meeps first of all. And I think it's been these two a lot of the time, the opening kills and opening deaths. Frostbite finally getting the better end of that, taking out Meeps, who hasn't been doing a lot of work for RDC.
Big kill to find if you are a BenchWarmers fan, or even just a Meg 101 fan, but regardless, the Valkyrie, I believe, one of the first couple rounds of play that she's seen so far in this matchup. So good to see her finally employed, but I also just realised Corvice, the RDC sub, filling in for BenchWarmers, could bring up an interesting point of conversation, Spud, but either way, through the wall, Weasel will go down. The pickup from the Finker is there, and still Armory, again, uncontested whatsoever. Corvice does get taken down, and it looks like the information might be there through the wall as the shots do connect onto Meg, but the kill not quite there. I mean, Angry, a little bit confused, I guess, maybe. I mean, yeah,
Angry,
Meg just
like
unchecked.
I have to point out that Angry has 2 frag grenades to work with. 2 frag grenades. A frag grenade out that door would have certainly, taken Frostbite out. And even if you throw it in and use it as cover to push in, certainly could still have worked as well. So just a little bit confusing there. But for now, I think they've just chosen once again to bypass that position entirely. And that's not necessarily a bad decision. Sometimes you just got to leave that player alone and focus on the other players and just wait for them to rotate back eventually.
Okay, Weasel allowed to walk up shower hallway, but Aurea is there to trade it back as Weasel is crossing over towards the site. Messi, unfortunately missing the shot there, will opt to push forward, but Weasel has so much control, doesn't know that there's a player on the flank. I don't believe even hearing the shoot. No, didn't hear the gate go off at all. The bomb's now going down. Weasel with a cross. A great save, I guess you could say, from the shots, because Aurea takes down the planter. There's only 16 seconds left. Benchwarmers need to start taking these players out. Meg to come in and find one. Now angry in a 1 versus 2. No choice but to try and go for the plant or the kills. Is going to opt for the plant with the Valkyrie camera there. The information relayed. The shots connect. Benchwarmers somehow win another round.
Yeah, just when you thought Benchwarmers were down for the count, they have gone right back up and have, landed a punch of their own. Several punches of their own, in fact. Radical Rebels were, at one point, four rounds up. It was a 6-1, I believe, before it went to 6-2. And now it's 6-4. 2 rounds separate Radical Rebels and Benchwarmers, and Radical Rebels certainly are now going to be feeling that pressure. They've lost half the leeway that they already had, and in quite convincing fashions as well from Benchwarmers. So certainly Benchwarmers have shown that they're not quite out of the fight just yet.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Spud, they've been doing really, really well. I mean, RDC, just mistake after mistake after mistake. I mean, no droning. No grenades being used to clear positions out. Nobody holding flanks. No flank drones. No pre-place drones. I mean, Benchwarmers have been allowed to just make plays purely based off of mechanics check and face checking into angles that they should not be winning on. I mean, how is Meg allowed to run around like she is without any contestation whatsoever? I mean, there is no way that she's left in armory twice to find the kills that she found. I mean, it just doesn't happen. So, really well done by Benchwarmers to read into it, but RDC definitely need to be being careful in regards to sort of how much that they're letting go, because that was almost a team kill. But if they keep making those kinds of mistakes, Benchwarmers are going to take this to overtime.
A little bit of roam clear coming out now, taking from the small tower side. So they have at least chosen to kind of rotate how they're going to do things, and with the help of the line, certainly will make those flank plays a lot more difficult. And yeah, we've seen this from Radical Rebels before, using good use of the intel, but it just hasn't shown up these last few rounds. So hopefully, this will be the kind of key ingredient that they can bring here and finally take that win.
Shots are being traded early here. As RDC have some really quick control in the first minute, already down the bottom of the freezer, the hatch is being opened up. I mean, this is a really solid entry so far. So, provided, they keep that up, RDC could be on to walk away with a round, as long as they don't make mistakes here.
And finally, it's that laundry freezer take. Good. I do like the fact that they're finally adapting and just bypassing that bunker area entirely. Whether they get the info they need to place their, the frag grenades in the right places is a different question. Of course, that mute jammer being very, very helpful, and as well as all the prismers. Oh, unfortunately timed grenade, but we'll survive that. I'm quite puzzled how she managed to get away.
Yeah, I don't know. Meg somehow missing those shots, but the nade does connect, and with no one there to revive, at least close by. They're attempting to confirm, but can't. The adrenal surge to come. A minute left, and I'd imagine we are only moments away from the executors. The first kill is found by Meeps from inside of freezer on the line. Does connect. It all slows down for a moment of time as they attempt to rent, but the kills there from Weasel. The shots are good, and inside of the small box, Aurea will swing out and find one position now, known though as everyone starts to walk into the site. But Angry, not quite aware, will find the kill. No, it's Aussie Ash to save on the cross as Frostbite's still down. Arctic now on a 1 versus 4. Calls being given by the smoke from inside of Old Mirror, but not, unfortunately, to any avail. If Arctic has anything to say about it, we'll find one on a meet. Only 3 more left. The grenade will be confirmed. The rotate being held. The bomb yet to be planted whatsoever, as Havana still has to make her way into the site. Will now come on in to join her teammate as the bomb starts to be planted, but it's another kill for Arctic to open the stage for a possible 1 versus 4 here. Aussie Ash on the cover, the bomb goes down. It's a post-plant spud, a 1v2, but very winnable situation.
Now look at all that utility that has been bypassed. We said it before, this is the adaptation we need. But will Arctic be able to adapt and find these 2 picks? Certainly very, very difficult, and she will not. It will be Aussie Ash to finally close out this game for Radical Rebels. BenchWarmers got very close, but in the end, it wasn't enough. Radical Rebels take the victory.
A game that went on longer than I think anybody thought it would, Spud. We finally come to the conclusion, 7-4, a great showing from BenchWarmers there when it came down to the thick end of it, because RDC, if allowed, were going to just run away with that one. And they did for a small amount of time. But fortunately for BenchWarmers, they kept it going a little bit longer. But regardless, a dub in the hands of RDC. They're going to lock those points in for themselves. Unfortunately, BenchWarmers not making too much in terms of a play on the leaderboard in round number 1 tonight.
It's very, very difficult now for BenchWarmers, especially building up on that round deficit compared to Fury, who, of course, will be playing in that next game. The next game, of course, will kind of solidify how this leaderboard plays out. But for now, I think we're fairly certain that the top 4 position not going to be changing anytime soon, I think.
Yeah, no, RDC, definitely a couple of mistakes made on the day, but arguably still the win. You can't get too upset about that when it comes down to business, I suppose. Lock the points in, you walk away with the dub. You're happy at the end of the day. But Spud, we are going to go to a very short break before the next game. So when we come back, get ready for game number 2 of the evening, Inferno versus Fury. Don't go anywhere. We will return shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Unstoppable Women's League. A short break, but we're here for game number 2. Spud, we had a really, really solid game to kick the evening off, going that little bit further than we initially expected, but now we cast our eyes to the second match of the evening.
Yeah, and for our second match, we will be watching Inferno Gaming take on Fury. And of course, these 2 teams have had a bit of a history. They did play last week, and it was 8-6 to Inferno. And, you know, to be honest, it's not a result a lot of us expected. So certainly there's going to be a bit of history here and a bit of a rivalry going on, because it will be their chance to take that rematch. And Fury will be hoping to finally take that win against Inferno Gaming, and Inferno will be looking to solidify their victory and make it 2-0 against Fury.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were expecting Inferno to win that matchup, if we're being completely honest, Spud, given that Fury are a team that have looked really, really good, and going into it, they looked really, really good. But on game day, I guess Inferno were better. So yeah, a matchup, a battle between rivalries, I guess we could say, coming into tonight. But we're better to settle a matchup, Spud. We have the veto for this game, and it's one that has ended in an interesting sort of manner. Unfortunately for us, we had Oregon, and we're going straight back to the OCE Special Clubhouse. It's dire straits for us tonight.
Yeah, I guess teams, as mentioned, I believe Crips, KT mentioned a couple of weeks ago, teams don't want to show off their kind of exotic strategies early on in the season. They want to stick with their safe bets here, and Clubhouse, Oregon certainly are those safe bets here. And of course, we see Chalet, one of the last to go as well, Cafe last to go. I'm just surprised Theme Park made it so far down the chain, given these teams' kind of aversion to playing anything apart from Clubhouse and Oregon.
Yeah, it's an interesting sort of outcome, I suppose, that Theme Park was allowed so far through, but it was Fury to get rid of it. Last time these 2 teams versus, Inferno winning at 8-6. I'm not too sure on the map. So Please,
Let me just
please
bring
don't
that
hate
up
me
for
for
you.
that. But yeah, it was still an Inferno win. So if it was on Clubhouse,
It was on Villa.
It was on Villa. Okay, so that would sort of be why Fury banned Villa first then,
Yeah.
or at least it was their first banned pick. But going into Clubhouse, that is definitely going to be a little bit more common ground, I would imagine, for these two teams, given that it's a map that we've seen played a majority of times. So either or going forward into this matchup, Fury definitely looking for a little bit of redemption.
Yeah, and what a better map to do it than Clubhouse. Again, we've mentioned it's one of those fundamental maps that you need to know how to play very well. And so Fury will be banking on being able to, carry out those fundamentals, play those mini games better than Inferno Gaming. Villa is a much kind of wider map with more room to move, whereas Clubhouse it's a lot more kind of claustrophobic, especially that second floor, top floor site can be very, very difficult to move around. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that plays out, whether that will help Fury in terms of their performance, or whether Inferno will really be able to capitalize on that.
Yeah, it's all big questions, obviously, going into this, given that Fury have already conceded to Inferno in the past. And I mean, coming into this, Inferno definitely hold the upper hand, I would say, even just in the mental department, knowing that they've already beaten this team once. So it is going to be a bit of a redemption arc for Fury, I suppose, tonight. But we are just waiting on the players to get into the lobby, and then we will be able to begin things. But just a refresher for everybody. Inferno Gaming, a roster that has seen some changes since the change from Volpez, but regardless, still a very good roster at that.
Yeah, leading the charge will be Sporky. She has been playing for quite a long time and has the stats to show it as well. KD differential of plus 15, definitely the one who is leading the charge a lot of the time in terms of playing entry as well. But we do see some newer players as well, Cell Shaded T and Munchkin, newer players here who haven't got the stat record. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of adapt to this as well.
Yeah, it's a great roster, but on the flip side, you obviously have Fury as well, a roster that sort of had a lot of promise coming into the Women's League, and as we said at the start, hasn't necessarily had the greatest of turnouts, albeit still relatively good, currently in 5th, but definitely not as dominant as I think people were maybe expecting. We've got Kylix and KC on sub. I believe the coaches, Smacker as well, Psycho, Amber, Ravana, Peepo, and Elv. All of these players boasting very, very impressive statistics as well.
Yeah, we've seen them do very, very well last season as well. And so, yeah, again, it is a little bit surprising that they have not done so well this season. But I guess we should stop harping on that, everyone. We've kind of hammered in that point a little bit. But yeah, what that really does mean is that there's so much potential here for this team. And if they kind of sort things out, I can definitely see them going for a heater of a run in the second half of the season. And it'll have to start right here, right now. This is kind of the moment for them, right? Taking it back from Inferno Gaming, making sure they get this win, and it could be the start of that redemption arc.
Well, I believe we do have the readies in chat. So Spud, momentarily we will... no, we don't. Okay, I've been lied to. It's all good. Albeit... I'd imagine we're close to having the readies in chat. Let's just say that instead. But yeah, two very capable rosters, and definitely going to be good for the rematch tonight. Clubhouse, I think a little bit better of a match choice as opposed to Villa for a rematch, especially it sort of just evens things out, sort of opens up the possibilities for both teams to really sort of show off in their own respects, given that Club is just, as we've sort of already said, one of the OC staples, I guess, in those sort of triptych maps that we see on rotation every week, that we love so dearly. But I mean, what are we expecting, Spud? Do we think that Fury have what it takes to win tonight and make it 1-1, or do you think Inferno close it?
Look, I don't want to jinx it. I do feel that Fury will be able to pick things up from here. I do think that on a more stable map like Clubhouse, they do have bit of an upper hand, given that a lot of these players have played competitive for a long time, so they'll have experience with kind of the mini games that go on in Clubhouse. Whereas for Inferno, it might be a little bit harder to juggle all that utility and get the coordination right. But again, anything can go. Inferno did win last time, 8-6. It was a really close game after all. So yeah, although I think things tip a little bit more to the Fury side, I certainly still think that Inferno still have a pretty good chance. You may have muted yourself again.
No, we're just yet to get into it, Spud. I'm just sort of, I don't know, digesting what is possibly about to happen before our very eyes. Because on one hand, yes, Fury, a great roster, a map that is going to allow that roster to sort of do what they're best at. But at the same time, they've already lost once to Inferno. So if history has anything to say about it, you know, regardless of leaderboard position, regardless of how everything's panned out, I mean, Inferno technically should win it.
Yeah, you know what this really reminds me of, right? It reminds me of G2. Right, they've got all the great players, they've got the star players, they've got a super team, but they just can't seem to win. And I think it goes to show the motto that a group of great players doesn't necessarily make a great team. It's all about that synergy. And we've seen, teams in other leagues as well with players that don't boast the most impressive stats, but when you put them all together, it becomes, sum of more than all its parts. And that's something that Fury have yet to quite figure out yet. Certainly, they've got all the fundamentals, they've got all the right building blocks. It's just getting them all arranged in the right way to really show off what they can do.
Well, here we go, Spud. Finally, we're going to be getting on in to Clubhouse. Inferno versus Fury, the rematch for the ages, or at least for so far, on playday number 4 here of the Unstoppable Women's League. But regardless, we're going to start off once more with the band side. And going into it, Thatcher, probably the Finker, maybe a Habana. I mean, Cade, Mira, Valkyrie, all very possible options.
Yeah, Thatcher or the Maverick is usually one of the attackers to go. It just makes opening up that wall a little bit more difficult, and so you can hold on to that control a bit more. Thatcher, again, very common though, usually the way things go in terms of just comfort picks, and I certainly, it makes sense for both these teams that they want to be sticking to what they're comfortable with for a map, for a game like this, which is really, really crucial for both teams.
Yeah, Clubhouse is definitely going to open up the doors for the most vanilla bands we've ever seen, I would imagine, unless they sort of throw something interesting into the mix. Flores, definitely an interesting band, but one that I can sort of get behind, given that Clubhouse does sort of allow for a lot of positions with shields and Azamis. I mean, we could even see Azami go down in the banning phase here, given that she opens up a lot of possibilities on a map like Club 2. I mean, we've got the Rafters hold, even downstairs. Cade does go. So Valkyrie, Mira, or Azami, I would imagine one of these final bans, probably more leaning towards the Valkyrie, if we're being completely honest, given that, Inferno don't want to be versing it. But no, it's actually the Mirror that goes. So an operator that doesn't have too much sort of impact on Club, taken off the board, and there you go. Ban phase concluded. We head right on in to round number 1, Fury versus Inferno. It's shaping up to be a relatively interesting rematch.
Yeah, I do like the addition of this Flores band. Just changes things up and does leave the Jackal on board for Fury. So they're going to be able to get that map control a little bit more easily. And we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, we can talk all we want, but it really comes down to the results of the game. And we're going to start things off with Inferno Gaming on the defense, Fury on the attack.
Well, we already have...
Attackers need to locate and defuse
Okay.
bombs.
Some interesting all chat. I guess we'll say that. But yeah, we already have an interesting sort of picks coming in here as well. We've got the Ella from Cells, and not an operator we see too much of, especially with the Scorpion as opposed to the Shotgun, but albeit most likely just going to be for that shield. But this all chat definitely Seuss. A little sus, I guess, for round number 1.
10 seconds
Yeah.
left.
main wall
Yes.
still hasn't been reinforced. Oh, okay, cool. It has been reinforced. Cool. I was going to panic because I thought for a second that wasn't done. But okay, now this thing's starting to look up here. They've got the shield up at the top red. They've got, the castle barricades protecting Suicide Window, and it's Toki playing that Rafters position with Double Might. So a lot of good ingredients here. Definitely can go very well.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Okay.
But with it down though, Munchkin, I believe, caught on the rotate out. Berry will be able to go for the revive, but as the wall is opened up, Vanna could be graced with 2 kills. Unfortunately, not opting to swing on round and look for them means that Inferno are going to be able to clear out, get the revive, move away. But Vanna opening up the other side of the wall now instead of just putting the thermite charge in the middle. All of that explosive utility in one place, so could come back to sort of haunt Fury a little bit later on, but hopefully it shouldn't be too much of an issue because it doesn't look like their push really requires too much control elsewhere.
They're going to be taking through the garage. Once they've taken that position, they've got the main breach open. You've got all the necessary ingredients. Sporky will be the first to find a pick. Psycho does drop. That's IQ removed off the board. Not too much utility lost, but certainly really, really helps the defense in terms of keeping more players up.
Yeah, and as Amber sort of just holds down this garage door here, takes a little bit of damage from up inside of the rafters, but Berry also down on this bottom floor. I mean, they still have a lot of good control sort of away from the second floor, but Fury, without really much information, are going to start conceding these kills. I mean, Berry takes down Amber. Yes, 2 players are on very low HP, but with the nades not connecting up into rafters, people are unable to find it. Hopefully, we'll get the second to land. Indeed, it will. Toki goes down, and as a minute is remaining, Ravenna also finds one. So Fury make their chance to be good here with those couple kills.
Yeah, those are crucial picks in power positions as well. They've gotten rid of that player in rafters, and now they've got garage control. They can start executing as well. One on red stairs does try to go for the C4, but it's a little too late now. Very looking for the kill here. Can't quite find it, and Ravenna will just be content, sit outside and wait for the push here, leaving just Sporky 2v1 situation.
L goes huge from inside a garage, finding 2, but Sporky in a 1 versus 2. Not going to go as huge as maybe we'd hoped. L for 3, single-handedly carrying that round. And sad face in the chat from Munchkin, but regardless, Fury definitely showing a really strong start here for Club.
Yeah, it took a bit of time to get things into gear, but once they got that Rafters player out, that was kind of the linchpin, the key point there. Some good utility, they threw the flashbangs up and then the grenade to follow, and then they took that territory without kind of waiting too long. And that, once that was open, was a free plant there. I really like how they did that, and I just wish that they had done that a little bit sooner and perhaps without losing as many players.
Indeed it is. But, look, Spud, round number 1 for Fury. A solid start. And a solid start from L on the Hibana. Fragging out of her mind. I mean, Ravenna and Peepo both there for 1 as well, but arguably the star of the show, the hard breacher from inside the carriage. But yeah, going forward, Inferno opting to repeat on the top floor here. Want to lock it down from inside of CC Cash, and well, I mean, they got pretty close. They found a lot of great kills to start off with, but then consolidated. Well, unfortunately, didn't rather consolidate the round. But in saying that, if they can find the same kills again, they could definitely walk away with a round.
A couple of mistakes there from Fury, and that certainly could have gone in favor of Inferno Gaming. Certainly the 2 opening picks went very much in favor of Inferno Gaming, and I'm just surprised they weren't able to capitalize on it a little bit more. For the most part, though, this will be a very, very much similar take. Opening up that garage, flushing out the Rafters player, and opening up the main wall. Nothing too fancy. Ambi, though, will be the first of all. Sporky once again gets that opening pick. And that's twice Amber has been, well, died early on in the round.
I was going to say, Psycho was the first kill last round, so on that hard entry, her being taken down is not great, but Amber similarly, unfortunately, okay, Munchkin almost dying to a team kill there, Berry shooting out the cash stacks as Peepo finds one on the Sporky, so the big fragger and the opening kill finder for the last round take it down, but the nades almost killing each other. Peepo takes damage from 2 friendly frag grenades as Toki somehow survives and holds control still of Rafters here. Might actually even take Peepo down too, but Psycho, oh no.
Excuse me?
How did you lose that?
No. She had Finka LMG. She had the LMG of all guns and still did not win that fight. That is surprising, and she's still there. The trades haven't been able to come out, and it's just... Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken that long. They've gone there, but yeah, certainly should not have taken that long.
Okay, L down means that Inferno in a really good position here to convert this round, provided they don't start tossing kills away like they did in the previous. Ravanna and Peepo, 2 very capable players left up here for Fury. They're in the wall out in every sort of extremity around, but punch hole will be heard. So Peepo looking to swing out and get aggressive. Rav will spot 1 just inside of cutout, but can't connect the shots with 5.56. And information is being relayed here for Fury. Smoke comes out. Ravanna might be looking for the default plant here, close on the door, but I mean, it's Peepo to take down cells, and this just got a whole lot better as Rav makes her way in, goes for the plant, will be attempted to be met, but Peepo's there for 3, takes down Munchkin. Berry opting not to swing, allows the diffuser to go down, and Fury in the driving seat to clutch around that they arguably shouldn't have.
Yeah, those smoke grenades, I was a little bit worried because it seemed to cut off the line of sight for the support, but they will at least get the plant down. Berry finally going for the swing, but it's too little, too late. Ravenna finds the kill, and that's the 2nd round in a row for Fury.
Yeah, and a round that they shouldn't have won. Let's be completely honest. Inferno dropping the ball twice. And, yeah, paying for it now in terms of the round count. Fury definitely looking like they want to walk away with this rematch under their belts.
Yeah, they've certainly done their homework. They prepared for it. Now they are reaping the benefits. But maybe it's a little bit too early to be calling it entirely for Fury. Last time the games, of course, were very, very close. So Inferno Gaming might still be able to find something back. And, of course, that's granted that Fury don't make any mistakes, and there have been, numerous occasions where if Inferno Gaming were in the position, they certainly could have taken advantage of that.
They could have, but they didn't, Spud, unfortunately, at the end of the day. And Fury, I mean, I said it, very capable. Ravanna and Peepo there doing the job that arguably they're the best at, shooting people, and they did it in style. I mean, a 2 versus what a round to win. Inferno, yeah, definitely need to be not dropping the ball like that if they want to walk away with the back-to-back dub over Fury, but all the same, Sporky really the only one right now for Inferno doing a whole lot in terms of the kills department, in terms of opening up the opportunities and stuff, but Fury, albeit, have done really, really well in opening things up for themselves, especially when it comes to that main breach. But, albeit, round number 3, Fury, bit of a slower start, but you sort of have to on a downstairs.
Yeah, they do want to make sure they clear out some of these roamers because they've been punished for it numerous times. It's Sporky, and I believe it was Berry as well last time, who were able to get those picks on players who just didn't suspect it. So hopefully this time they've got their drone work down at least, and it certainly looks like they're a little bit more confident in where these players are, a little bit more confident in making sure they don't get caught out and taken out for free.
What was that shield in blue that we just saw? Was that in the door, Nuttery? Can we get a highlight on that one? That is interesting. Okay.
So,
Haven't seen that one before, but maybe Inferno are onto something that we might not be. Sporky on this roam, though, paired with Toki, will be able to find one, traded out, though, by Peepo. So they only lose Psycho, their entry fragger, and the IQ once more the start of the round. This is not what Fury want to be doing, but, I mean, if the information's not there, how can they sort of expect Psycho to frag, I guess, regardless. Sporky, I believe, still at large over towards Strip side, might have retreated back to the site. I guess we will find out momentarily. It doesn't look like she's close by. Most likely
she's
playing
upstairs.
for that
Oh,
Nitro.
no.
No, she's in bar, so still close by, I guess, but in an interesting position.
Might expose her from the double door and any drop
Yeah.
down as well, but again, the drones just aren't in position, and I don't think there's buck or that Sophia actually know her position. Munchkin as well in the background will be able to find one
Surely
as well,
it was the
and that's
shield.
a hard breach. Yeah, not sure if any hard breach was actually used there.
Well, unfortunately for Sporky, he didn't wait around long enough as Peepo does drop down into the bar. But again, the information just not there whatsoever for Fury. I mean, Sporky allowed to
Finally.
just sit in Narnia without being punished whatsoever. I mean, still here inside of the lobby entrance, just completely unregarded, almost takes down Amber with the pre-fire, but it is Peepo to win the fight. The skeleton key
15 seconds remaining.
in hand. 15 seconds remain. The execute has to come now, running into Ash Rush. Berry will send some shots towards the feet, but it's actually Peepo to not go down. The Capcan trap takes down L, and very quickly it all goes wrong for Fury. From inside of the site, the Ella Scorpion, standing in the middle of Black Case and Bar, takes down the Bark, and Inferno find a round of their own.
Yeah, that was a little bit questionable there from Fury. The roam clear was really,
The whole round was
really
confusing, Spud.
really, really slow. They had the drones. Why did they not use them? Instead, they kind of face-checked everything. And, you know, Psycho paid the price for it. Ravenna paid the price for it. I don't know why she was, down on the site when the rest of the team was still clearing roams. And, yeah, the drone white just wasn't there. They could have easily cleared out Sporky a lot earlier and still had ample time to open up all those hatches. They had the utility to do so, too. There's no denial. They had, how many hatches did they open up? One? They opened up the kitchen hatch, and that was it. But
Oh no, yeah, they had the kitchen hat. That was it.
you have Habana, you have two hard breaches. You can open up all the hatches and get Church Wall, and there's nothing they can do about it. And yet here we are. Inferno gaining second round, and now it's up to Fury to claw back some of that momentum.
Keep in mind as well, Spud, Fury starting on the attack for Club. And again, another defender-sided map. Inferno definitely got the better side of the pick here, but haven't really done a lot in terms of finding a good lead. Now, yes, it is only 4 rounds in, this being the 4th, but in saying that, I mean, we look to how the setups have sort of been going for them, and this sort of, I don't know, style of a CC cash bedroom, oh my gosh, tripping over everything. A gym bedroom with a cash extension is what I was getting at. Is a sort of a very old setup. I mean, we have no information, no really anything whatsoever supporting wise over into CC, no garage pressure, nothing here from Inferno, giving Fury a straight avenue into CC to start aggressing to that cash hold.
And they've got the foothold there, and from there they can start really pressuring this
There's no
position
mute jammer.
There is at least a mute jammer, mate.
On the main double, there's no mute jammer.
Oh. Yeah, they can just get that wall for free.
Okay, there you go, but it doesn't matter. Toki takes down Peepo outside suicide from inside of cash, somehow out of the window opened up by the sledge, finds the kill, could be on for more here, provided Fury don't frag her out. I mean, the nades were eaten up by the mine magnets. The shield not cleared out. The nade not even there from below. I mean, Fury only just now getting the shield, but they don't have any real utility left. I mean, 1 frag grenade and a couple of flashbangs is all they have. But thankfully, L will find one, takes down Munchkin. So, I mean, even still, things not looking great at all here for Fury.
Finally, the
Bit
pick
better.
they need. They've cleared out that cache area, but that's about half of the round gone. They've already lost one player and a second as well. Ambi will get taken down, but Psycho for the trade. That's 2v3 situation, so things are looking up for Fury, but the time definitely is not.
Psycho now on the entry frag, finds some kills on the Finker, looking to go huge. 2 left for Inferno, and plenty of time. I mean, a minute left allows for obviously a lot of drones. Obviously, now sort of giving her position away. Berry, after shooting that drone, is going to be largely known about with the pocket bulletproof camera here from the castle as well. Information that could be being relayed right now, but isn't for Inferno. Could be a fatal mistake coming into the last 30 seconds, given that Fury have the advantage pushing onto the site. But Ravana doesn't know that Berry is still behind here inside of logistics. The head spotted out, but the shots don't connect, giving her play once more. Ravana now knowing that there is still presence inside of logistics as the bomb starts to be planted. The only person close to the site able to shut it down will be Cell, but inside of the bathroom, just hiding in the smoke, not aggressing whatsoever, walks on out, does get some shots off, but it's L to close it out with a second Fury. Fix the mistakes and close the round down.
Yeah, this is the third round that Fury have been able to get a plant down, and that is really, really surprising on Clubhouse. You don't usually see, being able to execute successfully because it's just so difficult. But yeah, here we go. 3 plants. 3 every time they've gotten the plant down, they've gotten the kill. They've gotten the round win, sorry. So yeah, Fury are doing something right, but sometimes for inexplicable reasons, it just all falls apart. The consistency just seems to be inconsistent, if anything.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Oh, Spud, it's shaping up to be an interesting one. I mean, Inferno in the first matchup, 8-6 win. Really, really good, obviously beating Fury. But right now, on the attacking side, Fury leading is definitely an interesting prospect, given that this is a defender-sided map, or at least very close to being a heavily defender-sided map, because that's usually what we see be the case. But this Ella pick, I don't know if I rate it as opposed to maybe bringing a Frost, a Smoke, something along the lines of some Denial, even a Tachanka could be a better pick. But I mean, other than the Grishmot mines, that shield is really all that Ella is bringing to this lineup. It hasn't really had too much of an effect, I'd imagine. Fury don't seem too worried whatsoever.
Yeah, it certainly could have a big impact in terms of the roaming department. Certainly 3-speed with a really, really good gun can certainly do a lot of damage on the flanks. But for the most part, Cell has been content to sit on the site and wait. And that just doesn't seem to be the best use of the utility there. So I think it's more of a comfort pick here, just to stay sane, stay comfortable. And you're going to need it when you're playing against a team that you've only just beaten. So you want to make sure you have every advantage you can.
Indeed, Spud, indeed. All the advantages that they can find will be the benefit here, especially given that they want this win. And they're going to have to work hard to find it as the Nitros come. Inferno not connecting with a pre-placed tier. That is big for Fury, because that utility now removed means that they're going to have a lot more chance to clear this cash player out without any real issues. The nade comes through, but the shield stands. The miss from the explosive charge, but it's fine. Psycho connects. The flank now is the next issue they have to worry about.
Now, the flank watch is the question here. The drone work sometimes has been found lacking, and if Sporky is able to once again prod this weakness, it could be a huge boon for Inferno Gaming. Certainly got the intel now, but will she catch the player coming in? She does. Ravenna is the one to fall. Doesn't quite get the retrade for Psycho, and she'll probably make it out of here alive. Oh, I spoke too soon. I jinxed it. I did it. I jinxed it.
Well, jinx aside, Munchkin will farm one onto P-Post, so still, kills being found. The same. Fury. A 3 versus 3. Psycho Amber and Elle all stand. Amber yet to actually find a kill, I'm just now realizing, up until this point. So on the Zofia, needs to look to maybe do some damage here for herself, but 40 seconds remain. Not a lot of time, but still plenty to gather information. There's always time for information gathering of Elle drones through the site here, relaying to the remainder of Fury. But this castle barricade in the hallway could actually open the door here for Fury, given that it cuts off all of the rotates available for Inferno as Amber jumps on into logistics, does spot the feet, does land the shot as well. Munchkin goes down. 2 players left, Cell and Berry inside of the shower and the gym hallway. That castle barricade cutting off the cross. Once more needs to aggress through the smoke, but doesn't seem interested in doing so. Elle allowed to plant once more, taken down by Amber on the cross and running in, not checking the corner close. Elle to take down Berry. Fury with a 5-1 half. No, sorry, 4-1 at the moment. Looking good for a 5-1 half.
Yeah, once again, a bit slow, but they got the job done in the end. It came down to those last couple of seconds, but in the end, they did finally get that intel. The drones coming in at around the 30-second mark, although late, did highlight the position of all 3 remaining players. And from there, they collapsed onto the site pretty well. It was good to see Ambi finally take the initiative there and push on into logistics. Certainly would have done a lot of damage if that logistics player had been allowed to rotate back. Of course, as you mentioned, that castle barricade did prove to be the undoing for Inferno Gaming. Weren't quite able to get back onto the site, and yeah, too little too late there.
Yeah, definitely. Needed some more aggression, I think, just from out of the bathroom, but either or, Spud, at the moment, I think Inferno are definitely struggling a little bit. Regardless, looking at how things are all going, I mean, Fury are looking really solid so far in this matchup, provided that the last time these 2 teams played, it was a one-sided affair towards the end of it. So a good switch up from them. Definitely been doing their homework, it seems.
Yeah, 4-1 is a pretty good scoreline. Of course, it's not, you can't just rest on your laurels quite just yet. We did see in the last game, Radical Rebels, of course, being 6-2 up, did lose another 2 rounds before finally closing it out. So they can certainly still be feeling the wrath, if you will, of Inferno Gaming. Having said that, though, hopefully they do learn from those mistakes that they made last time. We said a lot of things that we judged quite poorly, so hopefully they've at least picked up and changed 1 or 2 things here.
We hope. We hope, Spud, going forward. But I mean, even if Fury end this on a 4-2 half, that is a really good position for them going forward onto their defense, because it's Clubhouse. I mean, usually defense is where you find all the rounds, but that doesn't seem to be the case, unfortunately, for Inferno right now. Albeit a 4-2 could be on the cards, provided this beginning roam game here is a good one. I mean, we've got Sporky, we've got the Cap Can again, which we did see used to some good degree in previous rounds, so if Fury aren't too careful, we could see them finding themselves a very explosive surprise if they're not careful.
Yeah, last time, of course, that rushed entry into site right at the end was the undoing, and yeah, the Capcan Mind was able to take 1 of those players out. So hopefully they make a little bit better use of their time this time. 2 minutes roughly left to go. They've cleared that top floor, and it was the middle floor where they really struggled. Again, not throwing those drones out to clear that out. So hopefully things will be a little smoother this time.
They seem to have some idea that there is someone upstairs, but with only the one sort of look on things. I mean, I think that's Sporky inside of stock here. So as Amber just walks right on by, Sporky allowed to sort of live at large, I suppose. Yeah, just completely unchecked inside of stock. Fury, you got to be washing your drones here, because the rotate is available into the kitchen hallway, and this could open the door huge here for Inferno.
Hatches will be open now, kitchen and this time the main hatch as well. So a couple more options to work with, but will get shut down by Elle quick on that trigger. Some good reaction time. Could have ended really poorly, but fortunately for Fury, they will get away with that. And still 30 seconds left to kind of pressure this side.
Plenty of time to work with for Fury. The wall to be opened up on Church 2 is going to give them another avenue into the bomb side as Ash Rush gets opened up as well. Angles now available to play with. Ravanna doesn't spot the player proning under the bench, but it's Berry to open things up, taking down Psycho. Adrenal Surge is gone, and as 15 seconds come to be the final moments of the round, I mean, Fury look like they've almost opted to switch it up. Amber will connect. The flashbangs to drop. Ravanna on default now, getting the bomb down as Cell still needs to swing on out, but it could be Berry from Dirt to go huge indeed. Will find one. L does take down Munchkin, and in a 1 versus 3, Ravanna chucking the Claymore down as Berry is so close to her left. Just swing on out. You'll find the kill. The Nitro, though, will be there. Shot out and taken down by Rav. Mechanical prowess at its best. The bomb, the Claymore, and the shot to connect. That's what you love to see. Fury ended on the 5-1 half, as aforementioned, going onto the defense. Looking good to take this one in regulation.
I really liked how they switched up their attack right at the last second. They saw that the last two players were sitting in Church. And so rather than contesting that directly, they dropped straight for that kitchen hatch. And of course, this was possible because they had opened up all those hatches. They had so many more options available to them. So ultimately, it worked out really well and ended with a really nice shot as well. And that's 5 plants and kills. 5 rounds where Fury were able to get the plant down, and every time it was a victory for them. This is looking very much in the favor of Fury this game.
That's great. That's even just great statistics to look on. Like, 5 for 5 on plants, or at least attempted plants, given that Inferno sort of wiped them out in that 1 round. But even in saying that, Spud, 5 plants is something we're lucky if we see 2 plants in a game of any competitive league siege. So hats off to Fury. Definitely very, very well off in terms of their execute side. Very capable in terms of their execute side, but in so going on to the defense now, got a good lead to work with. But if it's anything like that previous game that we watched, Inferno aren't done just yet, with a fuse in tow, as well as the double OMG and the knock on Sporky. So could be big things to come here from Inferno.
Yeah, I was a little worried there that they might not have the necessary tools to open up the site properly. You do usually bring 2 hard breaches, but Fuse does have the secondary hard breach there, so they've got that available to them. Interestingly enough, neither team has chosen to play that Maverick Go for that Mav wall. They're just going to chuck a nade at the bottom of the wall and then open it up, call it a day. They will need to get rid of that meat jammer first, though.
By doing just this with the explosive charges, I believe the new Fuse team set here for Berry. Did Fuse get a team set? I might be wrong. Either or. So. The wall will be opened up. The Goyo canister dealt with as well, and the main breach to follow suit. Again, 2 thermite charges being used. Is this a thing? Is this what teams are doing now? Because usually you don't see both thermite charges used on the main breach, but in both instances of the attack, I mean, for Fury and for Inferno, we've seen both thermite charges used almost religiously. I mean, yeah, it's interesting to say the least, but maybe Garage could be where we see another one of those charges used. I mean, I don't know, Spud. It seems like it's just the strat right now, but Sporky opens things up with a kill onto Peepo, and Rav almost dies to what I believe is Goyo Fire, and Fury very quickly lose the solid lead that they had in this round.
Pushing in from that gym bedroom side, Sporky has been able to do a lot of damage. Rav, however, will at least find that fuse to go, and Ravenna now looking to challenge wherever that Nuck has gone. She's still... she's actually gone downstairs now and looking to push up those red stairs, catch a player off by surprise. Certainly the frag grenade from below could also be a really, really big impact here.
Munchkin does go down to Psycho. Confirmation there as well. Fury Now with the lead once more. Sporky has a good angle from down here inside the lounge, but it doesn't really give her too much as the bomb is dropped. The barbed wire not giving away too much, completely unaware. Sporky with the upper hand will find one. Toki takes down Ravanna as well, and very quickly Fury lose that lead. Psycho is the last alive as L bites the dust. Will spot the head of one, does connect, swings towards red, finds another, make it for a third. Cell now the last hope that Inferno have in winning this round. The 1 versus 1, the impact to come. Will spot the player walking out, but no! Somehow Cell connects. Psycho, unfortunately, doesn't win those. Fury, that's gotta hurt. That's a headshot, apparently.
That was a headshot, and that was it. I think Psycho actually hit the shoulder of the Sophia as she was leaning away, but yeah, managed to get the crosshair right on the head, and one shot was all it took. That certainly should have been around for Fury, and yeah, hopefully this is not where it begins to fall apart. It was really close, and Fury certainly were in control for a good portion of that round, bar maybe the start of it. So I certainly expect them to be able to continue their performance, just, sometimes a little bit inconsistent.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Wow, yeah. That was unfortunate for Fury. Psycho looked really good to win that, but just couldn't make it happen, unfortunately. Two was where it ended for Fury's hopes in that round, which is a shame, but very well done by Cell on the Zofia. And, yeah, look, Spud, it's only 1 round. They still lead with 3. So going forward, things still looking good for them. And they go downstairs, they don't opt for the repeat. They want to continue winning rounds. Obviously, if they find this, they go to match point, and then Inferno really have some catching up to do. Maybe not saying that. They still do have some good catching up to do here, but either way.
We see this blue power position being played with the ADSs as well. It's not something that we saw Inferno Gaming putting a heavy emphasis on. The shield was placed a little too far forward. And yeah, that was really a kind of weak point, I suppose, of Inferno Gaming's defense here. So yeah, Fury have at least got those strategies in the bag, but whether they'll be able to close it out is a different story, because as we've seen, sometimes you just need the LMG go brr and win.
With the 1.0 as well, not even the 2x or the 1.5. So in saying that, they made it work. Cell made it work, that is, and 3 players holding the dirt, kitchen, and the main stairs window is a little bit of overkill possibly here for Inferno, as they're dumping so much utility towards dirt tunnel. I mean, they already shot the mute jammer. Not too sure what the fuse was required for, but maybe clearing out... I don't even know, Spud, if I'm being completely honest. The high breach charge to follow, I'd imagine, from Berry to open up dirt tunnel, but with Peepo in this roam, we don't really see too much in terms of contest at all here from Inferno. I mean, she's sort of allowed to just be doing whatever she wants.
Yeah, Sporky does have some sort of an idea that there will be someone upstairs, so she is holding that, and had Peepo peeked that, or dropped it, sorry, she probably would have died there. But yeah, for the most part, this attack, it's all... Oh, yeah. There it is. In the background, Peepo finally finds that pick, and now that leaves all the players focused on these top main stairs and the kitchen, and with the leading fragger taken off the board, it will be very, very difficult here for Inferno to make a comeback.
I mean, yeah, as we said, Sporky really the only person doing anything in the kills department right now. As I say that, Toki and Berry have caught up significantly, but losing your spearhead is not what you want to be doing coming into the last sort of 50 seconds, because Fury still have plenty available in terms of things on the side. I mean, we've got 3 smokes here for L. We've got 2 nitros in play. I don't even believe that majority of the hatches have been open. I mean, Psycho's playing inside of Mem here. The hatch of Moto isn't even open. So for Inferno, priorities maybe not necessarily where they need. There's not even a hard breach, I just realized. There is no hard breacher here for Inferno whatsoever as it comes down to the execute. It is just going to be a 4-person push through the main stairs. The Melusi to give it away. Psycho with so many targets, can't pick and choose. Will find one regardless. Pushes back to inside of the site. The smokes to deny now the main hall. L will find one, but from behind, Munchkin goes big. Psycho for a second. Munchkin now in a 1 versus 3, 4 seconds. Finds 3. Can she make 2 more? No. Inside of blue. Does almost find the 4th, but it doesn't matter. Fury lock it down. Munchkin on the Ash. Almost had something to say about it, but Inferno, no hard breacher. An interesting choice, to say the least.
Yeah, pushing through main double with 4 people is always going to be risky, and especially with that Melusi gadget there. Yeah, look, they were lucky they managed to get so many people into sight. If that smoke grenade had gone, a little bit earlier and right in the double door, there was no way they were making it out of there. And in fact, I think it was only because there were so many people, Psycho couldn't pick a target, that they managed to get, so many people into sight. But hey, it is what it is, and Fury will be able to take a round off of, I suppose, yeah, really good anchor play there, just making sure not to overpeak and be over aggressive, just waiting for Inferno Gaming just to walk into their deaths.
Imagine if Psycho was Maestro in that position. That would have been quite easily like an ace feed or something, or well, no, 4K because Peepo found a kill, but regardless, that would have been insane. Letting all 80 bullets rip towards that main double walk in, but unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. Did get 2 kills for her stats, excuse me, but at the moment, it's actually L leading the charge. 10 kills, a 2 KD overall for Fury right now. On the supporting characters, nonetheless, 3K in round 1 as well, so putting in big work, but still, Inferno 4 rounds away in a very similar position that BenchWarmers found themselves in. Need to put in some big work if they want to catch up.
Of course, we've already seen that it's not impossible. Teams have certainly found a way to catch up, and Inferno Gaming, given their previous results, certainly are in a good position to do so. A little bit more of a cash extension as well. We do see the bandit charges denying that wall, making it a little bit harder to enter, but for the most part, they seem to be content in pushing from this strip club side, and L might actually greet them with that LMG here.
I mean, largely unknown. Again, the nade not making it through the drone hole, and this means that the next one that does go through for Toki, unfortunately, isn't going to be one that connects. But no, okay, not interested whatsoever. It's going to be the Ash charges dedicated instead. But there you go, L downstairs takes out the top fragger once more, and Sporky back to the lobby, unfortunately, for the remainder of this round. Munchkin as well, I believe, through the drone hole to fall. It's the self-kill with the Ash charge. It was Ravanna through the drone hole, making it happen. And yeah, look, Fury, if you don't close this round out, I would be very surprised. But I think it's safe to say, Spud, that this is going to be a 7-2 to Fury.
Yeah, given that the top fragger, well, top 2 fraggers, I believe, have kind of fallen off the map at least. Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for Inferno Gaming. They don't really have the necessary tools as well, because they don't have... Oh, okay, they could still clear that wall maybe, but they won't have enough to open all of them, and that's going to be a real struggle here.
Yeah, definitely is going to be difficult, I think, to say the least, Spud, but there's not really lots of time left, and Inferno Gaming don't look like they're too interested in making a push anytime soon. I mean, Barry's just breakdancing on the roof right now.
You got to be more Wamai to do it, right? The Wamai active dance, that was it.
Yeah, but I'm saying that I don't think there is really much left for Inferno to do here. They don't have any hard breach really in terms of dedicated hard breach. They do have what's left, I guess, in the hands of Berry and that secondary hard breach, but a couple of nades, some soft breach charges. I mean, a great nade from that, but Cell takes a lot of damage, ultimately fragged out by Psycho. Diffuser control now in the hands of the Fury, and for Inferno, I mean, Toki and Berry have had great games respectively each, but unfortunately, In a 5 versus 2, Fury with diffuser control, not looking to give that away at any time soon. Pre-fires are there from both sides, no connecting. The Volt in is actually the choice here. Toki looking to go huge. The Thinker Mouse one does find one. However, Berry's taken out by Peepo means that, unfortunately, Inferno, given that there is only half a second left, aren't going to be able to amount to too much more than the 2 rounds they found. Fury, in spectacular style, get the leg up on Inferno. They close it out in regulation. And a 7-2, I mean, what a way to close it out, especially after losing game 1.
Yeah, that's certainly going to help with the round differential and pushing for those playoffs. It's a much needed win, definitely going to help with the morale as well. And from here, I certainly see them going on a much more upward trajectory, given how they've been playing. And I'm really rating the way they're playing as well. The coordination is a lot better. Things are kind of all meshing together, and certainly more of what we expect.
Yes, Bud, they've looked really, really good coming from this week forward. I mean, Fury, as we said, a team that hasn't unfortunately looked the greatest in previous play days, but that was a lot more telling of what this roster is capable of. And I definitely think it is only the beginning for Fury. Half the season still left with plenty of games. I mean, they are definitely able to lock themselves in a top 4 spot here, provided they win the majority of the matchups that they have left over. But if they keep up this performance, I mean, tonight was a completely different Fury, and one that was a whole lot more successful and looked a whole lot more coordinated than they have previously, and it was an absolute pleasure. I mean, Inferno, yes, they beat them in the first, but I think Fury have kind of found their stride almost.
Yeah, it's just a matter. I do want to know how the earlier round tonight went for Fury. It was against Team Bliss, and it was a 2-7 loss. But yeah, then again, it is Team Bliss. What can you do about that? And it was on Clubhouse as well. So interestingly enough, Fury chose to go to the same map and have flipped the scoreline this time. And what a way to do it. Very well played against Inferno Gaming.
Oh, I mean, technically the round difference for them this evening, not really anything negligible, I guess we could say, given that it was a 7-2 trade, so +0 for the evening. But regardless, Spud, I mean, Fury definitely looking a lot more in form, I guess, than what we have been sort of accustomed to in the previous play days, which is good to see that they're sort of making the changes required, maybe even swapping some roles around, etc, because yeah, up until this point, it was not looking great. Looking good, yes, but not as good as it could have been, given the roster that they have. I mean, the roster they have is insane, and they're definitely starting to look that way now. They've ironed out a couple of the issues, and they were looking really, really good in tonight's matchup. I mean, to go from an 8-6 loss to against a team to a 7-2 win, that is a big turnaround in a space of, a week. So,
yeah. If they continue this kind of trajectory and improvement, top 4 certainly, top 3 even from there, certainly in the cards. The amount of improvement, the rapid improvement has been phenomenal. And, if they can make a repeat of that, certainly big things ahead for this team. And that just makes it a little bit more competitive for us. I mean, we like seeing different teams getting into that top 4 and being able to duke it out. And yeah, who knows, someone might finally be able to take down Team Bliss.
Well, maybe we theory craft, but they're undefeated for 2 seasons, 3 seasons now, something like that, for a good reason, I think, Spud. But all the same, momentarily we will have the results up for the other games this evening. One is still going on, so do take that in mind when we have a look. But here we go, the results for tonight so far. As I said, one game not quite done, but I think relatively telling and somewhat what we expected, Spud, looking at how round 1 and most of round 2 panned out. Nothing really surprises me there at all, I guess.
I'm just a little bit surprised, actually. Viking Army versus Big Brain Esports. 8-7 with a Viking Army victory. I did expect Big Brain Esports to come out on top of that, just based off the way that they play. But yeah, it looks like Viking Army have been able to pull off the win there, and that might be shaking up the standings a little bit, given that Viking Army and Big Brain Esports are 2nd and 3rd, respectively. In fact, yeah, Viking Army now ahead of Big Brain Esports. So they look to be the ones who are in contention against Team Bliss. But it's going to be a tough battle because Team Bliss dominant as always, 7-0-7-2. Yeah, what can you say?
Nothing really. I mean, it is business as usual for Team Bliss. There's nothing else to it. They've dominated for so long for good reason. I mean, the roster is insane to say the least. And yeah, look, 7-0-7-2. Fury could have expected a little bit more, maybe a 7-5, but still, I guess a regulation win is a regulation win. Albeit, yeah, nothing else there whatsoever surprising. I was expecting Inferno maybe to get a couple more rounds as well, actually, we will say. But Fury definitely, as we've already sort of talked about, changing up the pace, changing up something has definitely sort of worked well for them in this week of play. Again, Team Bliss is a unaccounted for variable, I guess, but albeit Fury really good this week and hopefully looking good going forward into next week. But the leaderboard overall has changed a little bit, Spud, from where we saw it at the beginning of the night. Obviously, it's not going to be in its final form, given that we do still have that BBE versus RDC game going on behind the scenes. But when we do get to see it, yeah, look, a couple of changes, but I don't think anything too drastic has really gone on tonight.
Yeah, it's mainly a shuffling of those top 4 teams, kind of where they are relative to each other. Nobody has quite been able to break into the top 4, past, of course, Bliss, Big Brain Esports, Viking Army, and Radical Rebels. But there is potential here. We did see BenchWarmers do not too badly against Radical Rebels. 7-4 isn't, it's pretty good. And, of course, Fury, a 2-7 loss to Bliss, but a very dominant 7-2 victory here. So still not all set in stone just yet. Certainly, still a lot of games to go. So who knows? We might see some drastic changes going on.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we haven't seen any more drastic changes given how well some of these teams have been playing. I mean, BenchWarmers got really, really into it tonight against RDC. I mean, they were down 6-1 and came back to a 6-4. That could have definitely been an overtime game, provided a couple of things went a little bit differently. But albeit, Spud, that was a really good way to kick the night off, provided, the rest of those games were also, I'd imagine, awesome ones to watch. But we've got the standings coming here to confirm our talk about. And, no real big changes in terms of, losing out on a top 4 spot. Keep in mind, this is subject to change depending on how RDC go, because if they lose their matchup against BBE, Fury might actually... no, I don't think Fury actually have the ability to take over. But yeah, look, still relatively what we're expecting.
Yeah, Big Brain Esports, even if they take another 3 points here, they will still be behind Viking Army. But yeah, it looks like that top 3 is mainly set in stone here, just based off the round differential. But certainly Radical Rebels, Fury, very, very close together. It's just 3 points and, 2 rounds separate them. So that is where I'd be looking to see where the top 4 go. But of course, BenchWarmers or Inferno Gaming do a little bit better, then yeah, certainly they could start pushing that 5th place as well. Triary Esports, unfortunately, haven't been able to find any points yet, so hopefully they at least get 1 on the board. It kind of sucks to finish with the donut, so here's to hoping.
Yeah, I think minus 44 is somewhat telling of how that is going to go for them, but you do have to hope. For them, but I mean, they've played everybody once round, so hopefully they've taken some notes, done some VOD reviews, and look to walk away with some dubs in the near future. But regardless, the standings sort of where we're expecting them to be. And Viking Army, I mean, even getting quite close to Bliss, 3 points is all that separates them. So could be an upset, provided VA can beat Bliss. But no one's done that for 3 seasons. So the hopes are there, but the percentage of that happening is not very high. Regardless, though, I mean, tonight has been really, really good, Spud. And overall, I mean, final thoughts for the evening before we go. Anything that you're looking forward to in the next play day?
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to really seeing these teams go at it again, given that this is a really, really competitive group stage. We're seeing teams really, really close to each other. The results are never really quite set in stone. We never get our predictions quite right. You've been pretty good at them, but I can't. I've never been able to get them right. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to be surprised. But, who knows who might actually win this season.
Well, don't forget to jump into the Popsugar XLG giveaway that was shown at the start of the stream. But that is all for us tonight on the Unstoppable Women's League. It's been an absolute pleasure as per always, and we will return next week. Same time, different faces as Blue Panda and Cthulhu bring you Playday number 5. It has been a great evening, and we'll see you all next time. Have a good one. See you later.